Here are some absolutely shocking fails from MasterChef that'll be remembered forever. In Season 4, after the red team lost the field challenge, they had to fight to be safe during the pressure test. However, before the contestants revealed what to do, Joe Bastanich explained that only 6 out of the 8 members would take part in the test. But that wasn't the only twist. This time, the judges would pick who would be cooking. On this occasion, contestants Baim Cruz and Jordan Roots were saved. Meanwhile, Luca Monfe, Natasha Kerniak, Christy Basiello, Brie Kozior, Beth Kirby, and Kathy Prieto had to go through the pressure test. And in this episode, during the test, the contestants were given 30 minutes to make some Eggs Benedict. Now, that might sound like a lot of time, but they only had one attempt to make the perfect dish. Who among these chefs do you think would ace this exciting test? Once the test began, each and every one of them faced problems while making it. And by the end of it, only Chrissy and Brie had the best dishes. Luca, Natasha, Beth, and Kathy had the worst ones. And since the judges couldn't pick the worst of the worst, they decided to send all 4 of them to Las Vegas. This was to determine their fate in another set of team and pressure challenges. For the team challenge, the judges paired Luca with Kathy and Beth with Natasha. These pairs were tasked with cooking a stunning burger at Chef Ramsay's burger restaurant. Luca took the lead for the red team, Beth headed the blue team, and Chef Ramsay was the expediter for both of them. The pressure was mounting, and everyone knew that Ramsay hated to see mistakes. The challenge first started off with 60 minutes of prep time. In the red team, Luca suggested using beef as a patty to go with the caramelized onions on top with some added sauce. He thought the cheese wouldn't be necessary, and Kathy, his partner, seemed to agree with whatever he said. She kept nodding all the way and went with his ideas, but in truth, she actually disagreed with him. Meanwhile, in the blue team, Beth came up with an idea of using beef as the patty as well. But she wanted it served with some prosciutto, goat cheese, and some aioli topped with eggs sunny side up. Natasha seemed to hesitate about the eggs, but still went with it. Both Kathy and Natasha were playing their own game. Since they had no say in their dishes, if anything went wrong, they could easily put the blame on their partners Luca and Beth. However, they seemed to forget one crucial point. It was a team challenge, and this meant their decision could backfire. While the prep was going on, both teams struggled to keep up with it. In the blue team, Natasha was having a few problems with the eggs. Beth asked for a better idea, but Natasha wanted to go with Beth's idea as their plan. As both tried to keep up with the eggs, they moved on to dressing the salad. And in the midst of it all, both of them forgot about the dish's main component, the patty. Had Chef Ramsay not reminded them, the blue team had no chance in this competition. And this left Ramsay frustrated. In a stern voice, Chef Ramsay warned them by saying this:
"Someone's going home tonight. At this stage, it's one of you."
The doors were close to being thrown open for the service, and there was only 3 minutes until they did. Both teams were hurrying up with their dishes, but Beth and Natasha still had no idea what to do with the eggs. These 2 contestants were letting their ego get in the way of the challenge. And everyone knows that when there's no teamwork, the challenge is bound to fail. At the very last minute, the ladies decided to scrap the eggs and go with goat cheese arugula. Was this a wise decision? Well, we're about to find out. The burgers from both teams were served simultaneously to the customers. Ultimately, they would have to vote on which one was better. Before we move on to the service, let's take a little look at what the blue team would be serving. As for the red team, they would be serving this. Now, as we said, these burgers were sent out at the same time to everyone. If the team said 2 minutes to the window, it had to be 2 minutes. And if Chef Ramsay needed to hold it back, it would only be for a max of 60 seconds. If they failed to turn it in, the team would start losing votes. Once the service began, both teams had 75 minutes to serve. As tickets poured into the kitchen, viewers got a glimpse of Chef Ramsay's serious demeanor that he's always had on Hell's Kitchen. But would he be less hard on everyone since it was MasterChef? Hell no. Anyway, the red team got off to an early start, and Ramsay had to remind the blue team of the rules by saying,
"Red team's in the window, blue team, 60 seconds from now."
Chef Ramsay was on fire as usual, and the contestants were struggling to keep up.
I'm like talking to myself here.
Both teams were serving burgers at a good pace, but sometime later, the red team struggled with their orders. Chef Ramsay was getting impatient with the wait and started to count down the 60-second hold.
3, 2, 1.
As the time was about to run out, Luca finally walked up with some burgers. Whew, that was close. However, Ramsay spotted something that made him incredibly mad. You won't believe what he saw.
It's still moving, it's that raw.
Since they already ran out of time, there was no chance of refiring them, so the red team lost a point. Chef Ramsay sent them off with a final instruction and said this.
Take that back. Then wake up.
Back in the blue team, Beth and Natasha were having problems preparing the buns. And in the process, they literally charred the hell out of a bun. Chef Ramsay picked it up with a sense of disbelief and said,
You're out of control.
Sorry, Chef.
You're way out of control.
While the kitchen was falling apart, in the dining room, the customers were casting their votes. Joe was tasked with walking around to get the customers' feedback when one of them called him out. One of the patrons said that she was happy with the blue team's burgers, but not so much with the red ones. When Joe tried to find out why, this is what he found.
I think it's undercooked.
It's raw.
Joe walked up with a burger to Chef Ramsay, who couldn't believe how such an undone burger even left the kitchen. He called the team out and gave them their last warning.
Got to stop. Rethink and get a grip.
Imagine coming across a raw burger at Chef Ramsay's restaurant. Now that's just embarrassing. As the challenge continued, Ramsay announced the arrival of VIPs, and take a wild guess who they were.
Welcome. Hey, sir.
It's all the other contestants.
Yep, they were none other than the other remaining contestants. To get some fair votes, Chef Ramsay asked both teams to take their aprons off. There would be no bias now, since the votes would only be based on the taste of things. In order to redeem themselves, Luca made a plan to send out burgers as soon as Ramsay called for them. By doing this, the blue team would struggle to catch up and miss the opportunity to get a vote. But would his plan be successful? The pressure at this point was intense.
Next four, how long?
Up now, Chef.
Just as planned, the red team started sending out burgers at a rapid pace, and the blue team struggled to keep up. With the red team firing out orders, the blue team started to crumble, like literally crumble. And Chef Ramsay couldn't believe his eyes.
How can you stand in front of a grill and burn buns?
The buns were almost charred once again, and Chef Ramsay had to say the obvious.
Even if you're blind, you smell them burn. Man!
Luca's plan actually worked, and the blue team failed to serve their last 4 burgers. And if there's one reason why they were leaving, then it had to be the burnt buns. However, Luca rushed to send out the orders. But in his team's haste, were the burgers still good? Now, let me remind you, the judging was completely based on the taste of the burgers and how perfectly they were cooked. The losing team would have to face a head-to-head challenge. And not surprisingly, with the standards that I just told you, with 4 burgers short from the blue team, this was the ultimate result.
It was close, but the blue team won.
Well, it was all about taste, guys, and the blue team nailed it. But this next contestant was so arrogant that he actually dished Chef Ramsay to his face. However, you have to see how Chef Ramsay reacted. I know Mark is gonna remember this for the rest of his life. It was the first day for the top 20 in season 8 of MasterChef. The first challenge of the day was a mystery box challenge. The box had a paper grocery bag that contained ingredients like broccoli, bananas, carrots, ground beef, chicken breast, rice, canned tomatoes, white cheddar cheese, and chocolate. The contestants had 1 hour to cook the judges a dish using the ingredients, with a huge advantage at stake. Once the challenge was over, Chef Ramsay announced that 3 home cooks stood out amongst the top 20. He then called Sam Reif-Passeru, Heather Dombrowski, and Mark Togny to the front. Mark was on cloud 9, believing that he had won the advantage. However, Mark was completely stunned when Chef Ramsay dropped a bomb.
You 3 stood out for all the wrong reasons.
The 3 of them were sent into the wine room, and after that, the judges called the top 3 home cooks one by one. That being Yachicha Holston, Jennifer Williams, and Brian O'Brien. After the judging was over, Chef Ramsay announced Brian as the winner of the first challenge. And because he won the mystery box challenge, Brian was immune from the elimination test. Christina then chose to save Jennifer and Yachicha since they showed great skills. Ramsay then announced that everyone except Sam, Heather, and Mark would be saved since everyone made great dishes in the challenge. The bottom 3 cooks were called back and asked to lay their dishes in front of the judges. And this is what Chef Ramsay thought about them.
Each of these dishes are way off.
None of them had shown the level of skill and technique that the judges were looking for. This trio now had to prove their worth to the judges in the elimination test. After a disastrous failure, who do you think would impress the judges? For the elimination test challenge, they were handed new grocery bags containing the same ingredients using the mystery box challenge. This time, they had 45 minutes to redo their dishes, either by making a new dish or using the feedback they got to make an improved version of the same dish. As the trio got started with the challenge, the judges hoped that they used their second chance wisely. Heather and Sam looked serious, but Mark on the other hand moved slowly. and this reflected in the level of seriousness he had for the competition.
If you aren't pushing yourself, I'm not interested in having you in this kitchen any longer.
With 30 minutes left, Sam was making meatloaf and decided to go with the same thing he'd made earlier. But instead of just correcting his mistakes, Sam made the same mistake again by not putting the meatloaf in the oven, which takes at least 30 minutes to cook. Chef Ramsay was discouraged since it was the meatloaf that put him in the bottom 3. He then gave Sam a tip: if he wanted to make it perfect this time, it should go in the oven. Meanwhile, Heather was making a new dish, grilled chicken kebabs with broccoli slaw. And Mark decided to redo the pancakes with chocolate chips and a side of baked eggs. When Christina went to his station to check on what he was doing, Mark explained his situation using a football analogy. And this is how Christina reacted.
Then why did you try the flea flicker? So I'm gonna
What's with all these football analogies?
Mark could get eliminated, but it looks like he was still playing games. His lack of seriousness made the judges think that he didn't care about the competition. With 10 minutes left, Chef Ramsay walked over to Heather's station. Brining the chicken to impart flavors takes 24 hours, and Chef Ramsay was surprised to see Heather trying to do that in 45 minutes. And to keep her chicken from getting super dry and rough, Ramsay offered her a piece of advice and said this:
Brush the chimichurri onto the chicken as you're cooking it.
Heather took the advice and continued working on perfecting the dish. But just as Chef Ramsay was leaving the station, Mark said something disrespectful.
You know what you could do, Heather? Just do what I do and ignore them.
Oh no, he didn't just say that. And to Chef Ramsay too. I know this isn't gonna end well for him. Ramsay was so pissed that he first asked Mark if he thought the competition was a joke. But what he said next left everyone in shock.
Take it serious or take your apron off.
Seriously.
Take it serious or take your apron off.
Mark's comments had left everyone feeling stunned.
What is Mark doing? This is embarrassing.
If his attitude continued to be this awful, he wouldn't last very long on the show. As the time ran out, all 3 contestants were ready with their dishes. Sam was the first to have his dish judged, and the judges felt his dish was better than the previous one. However, the presentation was a mess. Heather was the second person to have her dish judged, and the judges thought it was nice and liked the presentation. Mark was the last one to go, and he presented a chocolate chip pancake with baked eggs, bacon, and cilantro. The eggs just looked ugly, and looking at them, Chef Ramsay asked Mark if he was happy with his work. Mark was just arrogant and said this:
In all aspects of it.
When Ramsay questioned Mark if this was the best breakfast he's ever cooked, he actually agreed that it was. The arrogance pissed Chef Ramsay off, but how was the dish? Take a look at this.
That is tough to look at.
Although the pancakes were cooked nicely, the judges decided to boot Mark from the competition. Because, well, with that kind of attitude, he would upset the entire spirit of the competition. And so, Mark was the first to leave MasterChef Season 8. But in this next challenge, Chef Ramsay lost it when he didn't have enough portions of meat left to feed all of his customers. Why? The home cooks had given it all away. In the 12th season of MasterChef Australia, the contestants from the previous seasons were back to win the title of MasterChef. It's just like Hell's Kitchen Season 17's All-Stars. On the second day, the contestants were given their first team service challenge. They were divided into 2 groups, and each team had to prepare a 3-course meal for 120 guests. The judges revealed 3 ingredients: black garlic, ginger, and potatoes. And each team had to feature one of the ingredients for each course. It was actually Chef Ramsay's team service challenge, so you can imagine how tough he was gonna be during this service. The blue team had some whiz in their team, like Reynold Pornomo, Amelia Jackson, and Laura Sherritt. In the green team, Callum Han had to face Chef Ramsay's anger. Callum's lamb looked great, and you won't believe what it was compared to. A foot spa? Yikes. Callum promised to come around and not disappoint the famous chef. As the green team was busy sweating and stressing, Reynold made the challenge look like a breeze. He was operating 7 pieces of equipment in a swirl of liquid nitrogen. With the service pressing on, Chef Ramsay went over to the blue team to check how much pork was left. And he was left frustrated with the team's disappointing reply.
Left, I'm trying to talk to you guys. No one's talking to you. That is it?
Yes.
The blue team still had 9 tables to go, and this drove Chef Ramsay nuts. He gathered the blue team and told them that about 36 people were still waiting for their food. Plus, they didn't have enough pork to serve. They only had 8 portions left, and Chef Ramsay wasn't having it. Ramsay then ordered the blue team to bring up the wasted pork tray, but they didn't have enough. And this left the famous chef really frustrated. He then asked the team if they threw some away, and the team denied it, but they had to look for a solution. With no backup pork, the blue team was in a huge dilemma. And well, Chef Ramsay was appalled.
But you said 16 portion yield.
Yeah.
I said be smart. Trim what off that?
Ben Milbourne said that the reason they didn't have a backup was because they had a plan. Chef Ramsay was already frustrated, so what actually happened? The problem was the portion sizes. They were giving away way too much. But this wasn't acceptable, so this is what Chef Ramsay had to say.
Can we come together as a team and come up with a solution to how we finish this, please?
Of course, they couldn't just go back to the table and say, hey, we gave away way too much, so could I take your plate back? Chef Ramsay wanted an immediate solution, or he'd enlist all the contestants into the elimination test round. And well, this is the idea they came up with.
That can be saved. Down the middle. Trim.
Ben quickly got Reynolds to get the portion they needed for the rest. Thankfully, they quickly got to work and Reynolds did his magic, serving to the rest of the tables.
Last
Let's finish it off.
Come on, Blue, we need to lift this up a bit.
Finish strong. Let's go.
This contestant aimed high but missed the mark by a mile, delivering dishes that were complete disasters. Episode 10's pressure test, Diamond found herself in some hot water. When the judges announced the challenge, it initially seemed like a breeze, at least on the surface.
Sausage in a bun.
But as with all things MasterChef, there was a twist. There's always a twist. The contestants had to start from scratch. For those who were curious about what starting from scratch entailed, Christina was kind enough to spell it out for them.
Grind and case your own sausage. Please, head to your station.
This challenge was no walk in the park. If you messed up the casing, the entire dish could fall apart. And with only 60 minutes to pick their favorite combination of meat and seasoning, stuff it into a casing, and present it to the judges, the difficulty level skyrocketed. Once the challenge began, Chef Ramsay approached Diamond to see how she was doing. Initially, things looked promising.
Sausage, I like chicken, it's a lean protein, but I'm using the thighs to help with the juiciness.
Garnish the sausage. What are you going to compliment it?
She decided to give her dish a touch of Italian flair.
Garlic, basil topping, kind of like a bruschetta.
Don't waste too much time dicing that. You should be grating it, save yourself some time.
Clearly, she knew what the judges liked, at least on paper. Now, since Diamond was taking her sweet time individually dicing all her cheese, Chef Ramsay decided to drop by her station and offer a bit of sage advice. Use a grater instead. It's pretty odd she didn't think of that, especially with the clock ticking down so fast. But that was just the first mistake of the day. With only 10 minutes left on the clock, Diamond finally had her sausages prepped, the meat ground, and neatly cased. Diamond then focused on cooking her sausages to perfection. However, Christina spotted an issue that would come back to haunt her.
And there was no color.
Damn.
Diamond.
If the judges catch a flaw before you've even plated your dish, you're already in deep trouble. But Diamond kept cooking, blissfully unaware of the impending disaster. When it was time for the final tasting, Chef Ramsay seemed somewhat impressed with the presentation.
Not too sure about the Parmesan crisp, but I like the visual impact. For me, it's all about what's going on.
However, Chef Ramsay was more interested in the inside of the sausage. That was the whole point of the challenge, crafting perfect sausages. Unfortunately, Diamond failed spectacularly in this regard.
That doesn't look like it's cooked.
Chef Ramsay didn't even need to taste it to see how raw it was. He sliced the sausage in half, hoping to find even a small part he could taste to give her some constructive feedback, but it was a lost cause.
Need to salvage this side. It's actually worse.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So that
I
thing's-
touched it.
At that point, it was almost as if she hadn't bothered cooking them at all. Now, this should have been Diamond's one-way ticket out of MasterChef.
Oh, if, ands, or buts, I'm going home.
But guess what? She got lucky.
Time was up.
Turns out, there was another contestant who, despite having a fantastic dish, broke one of the challenge's rules. Andrea was just 3 seconds late in presenting her dish, and it cost her dearly. Andrea, one of the youngest yet strongest contenders of the season, saw her time on the show come to an abrupt end. Meanwhile, Diamond couldn't believe her luck. That was literally the only way she was walking out of there unscathed, and it actually happened. But in the very next episode, she proved why she wasn't meant to be in the competition. As if the previous week wasn't enough of an indication. In episode 11, Terry had the power to choose a rice-based dish for the upcoming challenge. He had to choose between paella, bibimbap, and risotto, and he went with bibimbap. One of my absolute favorites, but that's beside the point. Diamond wanted her dish to stand out, so she thought that completely ditching tradition would be the perfect approach.
Style bibimbap with fried chicken, some pan-fried sweet potato, I have homemade cornbread, and red beans.
But Chef Ramsay had issues with it right from the concept.
A plate that has a lot of different flavors.
Even though she tried to explain her thought process, Chef Ramsay wasn't impressed with her personal touch. Not at all.
This has to be one of the ugliest dishes I've seen so far tonight.
I mean, so...
Chef Ramsay is probably the only person who can compliment and insult you simultaneously. His unique ability to mix praise with a scathing critique is almost an art form. It's like watching a master painter at work, except his brush is his sharp tongue. But that bit of sugar wasn't going to help the medicine go down, not at all.
That looks horrible.
To summarize, we had dull colors, amateur knife skills, and an entire loaf of bread sitting on top of the rice. Seriously, who thought a bread mountain was a good idea? It was as if she had gone to a picnic and decided to bring the whole bakery with her. But that wasn't even the worst part. When Chef Ramsay tried to scoop out some of the rice, he was shocked by the sauce's heavy texture, which reminded him of something very specific.
I didn't think it would get any worse, but...
Chef Ramsay seemed particularly harsh that day, but it wasn't exactly unwarranted. The sauce was so thick it could have doubled as wallpaper paste. Not exactly what you want to see on a plate of bibimbap. Honestly, it felt more like poutine than bibimbap. You can't have proper bap without gochujang, at least in my book. It's like trying to make pizza without the cheese, it just doesn't work. Imagine ordering a pizza and getting a crust with nothing but tomato sauce. Disappointing, right? Still, Chef Ramsay mustered the courage to give it a taste. Unsurprisingly, it lived up to his low expectations.
The beans are heavy, I get the rice and beans, I get all that. But you've macerated all that rice with that heavy, stodgy gravy.
The taste was about as appealing as it looked, and it looked like something out of a culinary horror movie. Diamond admitted it was her first time making the dish, shocking absolutely no one. Trying out a complex dish for the first time in a high-stakes competition? Bold move, Diamond. Bold, but clearly not wise. It's like bringing a knife to a gunfight and hoping for the best. Her disaster was predictably named the worst dish of the evening. Unlike the previous episode, this time she didn't have Andrea around to take the fall for her.
Up, please, come up and say goodbye.
Thank you so much. It's been awesome.
The former Miss San Diego left MasterChef in one of the most embarrassing exits imaginable. At least they didn't keep her around for a hat trick of failures, so there's that. Imagine the headlines. Miss San Diego misses again. Yikes. Her exit was a mix of tragedy and comedy, with a dash of irony thrown in for good measure. Moving on to episode 10 of season 9, the contestants were in for a real shakeup. Two pairs of super friendly contestants were paired up for a new challenge, and you would think that these friendships would lead to a winning combo.
You will be working in pairs.
Instead of forming the dream team everyone expected, things took a dramatic turn, and they ended up clashing and becoming each other's worst enemies. The challenge was an ingredients test, where the contestants were given a set of 5 ingredients. A whole chicken, carrots, onion, bacon, and cornmeal, and the task was to figure out what to create from these ingredients, with the judges offering a few suggestions on possible dishes. With the teams now set, there was an uneven number of contestants, leaving Ralph as the odd one out. This actually turned out to be a stroke of luck for him, as he was paired with none other than Joe Bastianic. This was a huge advantage, as it not only kept Ralph safe from elimination, but also set the stage for a fascinating twist in the competition. On the other hand, Taylor and Ashley were a problematic pair from the get-go. Their issue? Both of them were too nice to take charge, and this lack of assertiveness was a problem.
I'm happy to work with Taylor. We worked in a field challenge together. She stepped up as...
Despite putting their heads together and deciding on a dish with the ingredients they had, Chef Ramsay began to get concerned.
I think personally they're too friendly. They might not want to say that tough thing to one another
or correct one another.
Chef Ramsay worried that their friendship could actually work against them. Being friends might prevent them from calling each other out on mistakes, and he feared that this could be a serious issue in a high-stakes competition. In the end, the real test wasn't just about cooking. It was about seeing how long their friendship could survive the intense pressure of the competition. You know, the kind of pressure that makes you wonder if you'd rather cook with your worst enemy than face the stress of working with your best friend. And guess what? Their friendship didn't last too long under the heat of the kitchen.
It looks terrible.
That's my bad. I'm sorry.
Okay, what are we gonna do? What do we do?
When Chef Ramsay checked in on Ashley and Taylor, he wasn't impressed. In fact, he was far from happy with their dish.
Pestle.
Right, where you brulee the onion and then you peel.
That's normally in a chipie.
He didn't mince words, flat out calling their creation ridiculous, and bluntly asking Ashley what on earth she was thinking.
For flavor.
I've never done it before, Chef. I wanted to taste it first.
Why are you doing things, testing them?
Ashley's response? Oh, she was just experimenting with new ideas. Seriously? This isn't a science lab, it's a cooking competition. You're not here to try out culinary experiments, you're here to cook something edible and impressive. Chef Ramsay had to step in and give her a reality check, reminding her of the stakes involved. As if things couldn't get any worse, Chef Ramsay's attention was caught by something that left him absolutely stunned.
Who mauled this?
Ashley and Taylor were frozen in place like deer caught in headlights. Finally, Ashley confessed that the blame was on her, and Chef Ramsay was absolutely livid.
You're two girls I believed in. I mean, I've seen better performances.
He let them know just how ridiculous their approach was, and that's when the tension really started to ramp up.
Why did you slice it that way?
Taylor and Ashley are flustered like anything.
Clearly, their culinary journey had become a full-blown soap opera, with friendships cracking under pressure and Chef Ramsay running out of patience. It was a pivotal moment in their partnership, a real test of whether they could handle the heat together. But the pressure of the competition was clearly straining their friendship. You could almost feel Chef Ramsay's disappointment radiating through the screen. Anyway, the moment of truth arrived. Time to judge the dishes.
Definitely not on the same page, and it is completely coming through on this plate.
The team that had everyone the most worried? None other than Ashley and Taylor. They whipped up a pan-seared chicken breast with sauteed carrots, bacon, and cornbread, but honestly, it looked downright dismal. There was so little on the plate that the judges didn't even bother tasting it. They had to get to the bottom of what went so wrong.
She wanted a carrot puree at the bottom of the plate.
That was, no.
Their partnership had always looked shaky, but this disaster revealed just how weak it truly was. The blame game began almost immediately. The two started pointing fingers at each other for the mess, and there weren't even any real carrots on the plate because they'd been bickering over the carrot puree.
Watching both of you work is like chewing gum with a mouthful of nuts.
It was a chaotic scene, and their failure to work together cost them dearly. But what about the taste of their dish? Well, Chef Ramsay's reaction says it all.
Seriously? The cornbread is dry, it's crumbly.
Unfortunately, the blame game didn't end there.
Like that.
I started to cut it, and then Ashley was like, don't cut it that way, so she cut right into it.
Ashley botched the execution, but refused to own up, insisting it was Taylor's idea and that she had been working on something entirely different. In the end, neither wanted to take responsibility. The truth was, they argued endlessly about the carrots and how to cut the chicken, but never came to an agreement. They were dysfunctional at best, and never stood a chance of winning the challenge as a team. Plus, they were both mortified to have let down their mentor, Gordon Ramsay, who had handpicked them, expecting stellar teamwork. After their dismal performance, Chef Ramsay wasn't pleased either.
But right now, with these two guys standing behind me like that, I look the biggest idiot in this kitchen.
I guess it just wasn't their day, huh? Now let's rewind to season 12, when things took a rather nasty turn.
Right now.
Come on.
Damn.
So what happened is, right at the start, the contestants were given a pretty exciting challenge.
Those amazing cowboys and cowgirls have definitely worked up a phenomenal...
They were taken to an actual rodeo and had to cook for real cowboys and cowgirls. Imagine that. Most of them hadn't even been to a rodeo before, so this was a unique experience. And moreover, the judges suited up as cowboys too. Talk about a real treat. Team challenges are always the judges' favorites. The home cooks not only get into the theme, but also have a chance to step up. If the theme wasn't challenging enough, check out the captains for the day. Considering they were both in the bottom two just a week prior, this was an unexpected move. Bree and Shelly had to prove they deserved to stay. Bree took the reins of the red team while Shelly led the blue team. And guess what? They got to pick their own squads. Shelly chose familiar faces from her last team challenge, while Bree picked folks she thought could create magic together. Both were strategic in their choices, knowing they had to maintain control in the kitchen. Bree wasn't much of a yeller, which came with its own set of problems. She hesitated to assert herself, something the judges noticed.
Bree's soft-spoken, but as a team captain, she'll need to step up, be assertive, and take...
Eventually, her team settled on a BBQ dish, each working their own stations. But then, Chef Ramsay noticed Dara struggling solo and decided to intervene.
Bree, FYI, Dara's on her own, cutting up yams.
Yeah.
These two are messing around with slaws. They've got electric machines.
He suggested someone help her at the coleslaw station, which spiced up the team dynamics. With machines available, they didn't really need 2 people for coleslaw duty. And with over 100 hungry mouths to feed, time and quality were critical. Meanwhile, on the blue team, Shelly hit a snag with one of her chefs.
Let's go.
Check the temp, Christian, please.
That's a disrespect if you poke at me. But check it, it's there.
She thought teaming up with Christian was a good idea, but it backfired. Christian was all about arguing, especially over the temperature of his meat.
I have the right temperature. Come on now. I've cooked hundreds and hundreds of steaks.
And I'm asking you because you're gonna be...
He insisted he had it under control and didn't need to check. But Shelly managed to convince him otherwise.
Let's go. Cook 1 million steaks. What's the temp you going for?
We're going 120.
Medium?
So, little did Shelly know, Christian was venting in his confessional, saying she should be more open to listening to kitchen voices. The irony? When Christian was captain, he picked everything, refused to listen, and yelled to keep things in order. Clearly, Shelley didn't want to follow that path, and Christian took full advantage. Meanwhile, Andrea faced her own troubles.
Who's placing what here? Emily.
Steak is last.
I know who's doing what. Who is doing what?
Emily.
Chaos kept growing with Shelley giving Brandy unnecessary advice.
Make it taste like barbecue sauce. Barbecue baked beans.
Will, you about to go to the front? You want her to finish it off?
Yeah,
It turned into a sweet disaster. So much so that even Willie found it super weird. Meanwhile, Chef Ramsay was running out of patience and had to intervene. But instead of taking Chef Ramsay's advice, Shelley argued back.
Look, don't argue. Just listen to what I'm saying.
Yes, chef.
Taste before you dump a kilo of sugar in anywhere, yes?
So, did the dish turn out fine? Let's see.
Brandy!
Yes, chef.
Just taste those beans. They're way too sweet. Touch of salt in there.
Brandy felt caught between Shelley's advice and Ramsay's expectations, leading to constant whining while working on the cabbage. Shelley also delayed things by taking forever to make her coleslaw. As if that wasn't enough, Christian did something crazy.
blue team raw.
Completely on the inside.
Okay, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna take it back and have.
Chef Ramsay was clearly frustrated. Kitchen chaos escalated as Shelley assigned the wrong people to the wrong stations. Christian's refusal to check his steak's temperature should have signaled a reassignment, but troubles persisted. Meanwhile, Derek, on the red team's meat station, watched the turmoil. He cooked every piece of meat perfectly, in stark contrast to Christian's struggles.
She made me look like an idiot, and I just served it back to her. Shelley will see it when Gordon tallies up.
Derek saw Shelley's mismanagement as karma, thinking he wasn't picked for her team for personal reasons. He believed she deserved the challenges she faced. Despite the blue team pulling things together, the key question remained: was it enough? Both teams finished their service on a positive note, and the Cowboys and Cowgirls had the power to decide the winner.
Okay, first and foremost, we know we had some bumps in the road.
The votes were tallied, and the red team won. But the blue team's defeat had a twist. They didn't choose who to eliminate. Instead, the judges did. In a surprising turn, they decided to send Shelley home. Her leadership fell short, and the team buckled under her guidance. Alright, moving on to another contestant who was impossible to ignore.
David, you okay?
I don't know.
Come on.
It's like, oh, smoke trout and
This guy had some serious culinary skills that could make your taste buds dance with delight. However, his attitude was a whole different story. His approach to the competition was laser-focused on one-on-one confrontations, and his assertiveness was something to behold. Oh man, did he ever fumble on that move? It was like watching someone trip over their own feet in slow motion. He really did a number on himself with that mistake, didn't he? Moving on, it was David's chance to change the dynamics and prove he could outshine the others. But did he manage to rise to the occasion? Well, David had a cocky streak that was hard to ignore, and it was almost on par with Chrissy's bravado. His frequent tantrums and outbursts gave off serious toddler vibes, and he was boiling over with frustration and arrogance.
Idiot. Personal attacks, David?
It was clear he wasn't about to calm down anytime soon. His temper was a constant source of tension and drama. But the real showstopper was when David attempted to bail out of the competition entirely as the top 5 were being announced. That was some next-level drama right there. His aggression was off the charts, and it left fellow contestants like Brandy, Tenoria, Katie, and Dan completely stunned by his reaction. It was as if his outburst had thrown a wrench into their entire competition experience. Here's the kicker. David and Sean had started off with what seemed to be a budding friendship, but that camaraderie went up in flames due to David's explosive behavior. Sean was suddenly thrust into the role of managing David's volatility, and it felt like trying to stir a pot of drama soup. Every move David made seemed to add more chaos to the mix. David was never short on words.
No, I mean, this idiot doesn't even get the protein, and then I get this and no, it's
Despite Chef Ramsay's genuine attempts to offer support and guidance, David's response was akin to serving up a burnt batch of fries, completely off base and ungrateful.
oh, smoke trout and some Asian stuff. Just it's a joke.
Chef Ramsay was dangerously close to losing his temper, but he managed to keep his composure. It truly takes a monumental amount of self-control to stay calm and collected when dealing with someone as unpredictable and erratic as David. But let me tell you what happens when communication falls apart. Teamwork crumbles, and above all, you have a seriously bad leader at the top. Well, that's exactly what went down in Season 6, Episode 4, when the contestants dove into their first team challenge. Their mission? To dish out hamburgers with onion rings and coleslaw alongside fish and chips to the hungry crowds at Knott's Berry Farm. But here's the twist. There was no set number of diners. Anyone walking through that gate had to be fed by both teams with the privilege of voting for the winning dish. Dara took the reins of the blue team, but right from the start, they struggled to find their groove in the kitchen. What's shocking is that with just 10 minutes left on the clock, not a single portion of fish was cooked.
What you got cooked, Katrina?
None.
None. Hey, blue team! Blue team!
Yeah.
Chef Ramsay's jaw literally hit the floor. He rallied the blue team, demanding they get their act together with a side of urgency.
Pressure test? This is insane!
He was so furious that he told Dara straight up to skip the challenge and head straight for the pressure test.
Dara! Look at me. Should we just cut to the chase and go straight to a pressure test? This is insane!
But then, Claudia swooped in like a savior to tackle the fish station. Yet, things quickly went south when the blue team was about to serve raw fish to a young boy.
Stop. The fish is raw.
Oh no, that was pretty close. I guess Claudia dropped the ball big time. And obviously Chef Ramsay's patience was pushed to the limits after the blue team's numerous mishaps.
Team, I promise you now, I'll close this down. One more raw fish.
But wait, there's more. Katharina's butter turned out ridiculously thick, much to Chef Ramsay's dismay.
Get in it. Why? Because all this flour's gone in there. It's just like a big cement mixer with at the bottom.
I mean, Chef Ramsay can come up with the craziest descriptions of sad and disappointing dishes, always keeping it brutally honest and entertaining. Unfortunately for the blue team, this flurry of errors led to an embarrassing loss, and they were slapped with a pressure test as a consequence. And well, I guess when it comes to the charged up environment of the kitchen, ignorance isn't always bliss. This episode perfectly showcases the chaos that can ensue when a team lacks leadership, communication, and basic cooking competence. Let's dive into this unforgettable episode from Season 4, where MasterChef took an unexpected twist.
James, you had the best dishes in the last elimination, so you two are the team captains.
Chef Ramsay welcomed two very special guests. Aaron, a self-proclaimed flavor scientist, and his food-loving fiancée, Anya, who were about to tie the knot the next day. But wait, Chef Ramsay wasn't finished with the surprises. What he announced next left everyone floored.
Surprise! You will be cooking the food at the reception.
In a truly generous move, the couple decided to let the MasterChef contestants cater their wedding reception. Yep, you heard that right. This high-stakes challenge was gonna test everyone's skills to the max. The contestants were in complete disbelief.
This is an important gig. Why the are they trusting us?
With the wedding reception less than 24 hours away, the home cooks were in a frenzy, trying to prepare for this monumental task. Then, just when they thought things couldn't get any tougher, Anya upped the ante.
My dislikes. No peanuts, no beets, no radishes, no celery root, no...
Anya rolled out an extensive list of banned ingredients, making the challenge even more daunting. And the list seemed endless. She just kept listing more and more ingredients.
Peppers of any kind. No dill, no cilantro, no olives.
In under a minute, Anya had nixed most of the commonly used ingredients, leaving the contestants and even Chef Ramsay in shock at the day's challenge. This was shaping up to be an incredibly tough task, and the contestants could already feel the pressure mounting.
We're making lettuce wraps and water for his wedding.
The good news is,
with the clock ticking and stress levels rising, the contestants faced one of their most difficult challenges yet, racing against time to craft a memorable and delicious menu for Aaron and Anya's wedding reception. As part of the challenge, the home cooks were tasked with creating 2 show-stopping entrees, one meaty and one vegetarian. But to their relief, the dessert would be handled by none other than
Chef is me.
Well, that news definitely brought some smiles, didn't it? However, when the contestants arrived at the venue, another surprise awaited them. They were set to serve over 100 guests, including 15 vegetarians. Joe made it crystal clear what was expected from the home cooks.
Make sure that there is something delicious to eat for every single guest.
Anyway, Natasha and James stepped up as team captains for the first time. James, having triumphed in the crab challenge, got the first pick and chose Lynn, a consistent favorite.
But it's also exponentially puts the weight on my shoulders every time I'm picked first.
Lynn's culinary skills and enigmatic presence made him a valuable addition to James's team, which also included Jesse, Johnny, Bree, and Luca. On the flip side, Natasha picked Eddie as her co-captain and rounded out her team with Jordan, Bethy, Savannah, and Chrissy. But here's where it got really interesting. The producers threw in a psychological twist by allowing each team leader to excuse one member from participating in the challenge. And guess who Natasha decided to sit out?
Not gonna be playing with us.
My feet, thank you.
Chrissy was thrilled to be chosen, since sitting out meant she'd be catapulted into the top 11. Of course, she wasn't complaining about the free pass to the next round. Meanwhile, James surprisingly picked Bree, the only vegetarian among them, which raised quite a few eyebrows. Unlike Chrissy, Bree was not happy about this decision.
Would you get rid of someone who's such a strong vegetarian, you know, when you have to cook vegetarian dishes? But screw you guys, good luck catering.
With strategic decisions and competitive spirits running high, the stage was set for a fierce battle. As expected, the blue team, boasting many skilled chefs, initially surged ahead, while the red team struggled to keep up. However, the tides quickly turned as the blue team began making careless mistakes.
Cannot send this!
Oh my God.
Look, dirty plates.
Chef Ramsay's frustration grew as delays continued, with 2 tables eagerly waiting for the blue team's entrees. The pressure was on, and Chef Ramsay was not impressed with their sluggish progress. Eventually, the blue team picked up the pace, and their lamb dish finally headed to the dining room. But Lin Chi, facing the real risk of losing the first team challenge, started cracking under the pressure. Just when Lin thought things couldn't get any worse, Chef Ramsay intervened with a stern warning.
You're sweating, look at me, on the food. Okay, young man, I know it's hard. You cannot sweat in the...
In a dramatic move, Chef Ramsay decided the team needed to make some crucial changes.
No way. You can't sweat in the food.
He's sweating on the plates.
Hygiene is non-negotiable in the kitchen, and Chef Ramsay wasn't about to compromise on this basic principle. With time running out, the blue team had to regroup and tackle the challenge head-on, with no room for mistakes. When things seemed like they couldn't get any crazier, Joe dropped a bombshell on Chef Ramsay.
No blue plates. Table 3, no blue plates. The whole wedding party's gonna eat the red team's dishes.
The blue team's diners had no food on their tables. Guests were even threatening to leave. Chef Ramsay had had enough and wasn't holding back.
Blue team are now 5 tables behind.
I don't want to disappoint our team.
As the blue team scrambled to catch up with orders, something gross happened.
Please down. Yes, chef.
You're wiping the forehead again, and you're wiping the plates.
That's just nasty. I mean, seriously, what was he thinking? At that point, Chef Ramsay had reached his limit.
Health and safety.
Yes, chef.
I just watched you wipe your plate with your cloth.
Yes, chef.
Now, will you...
The blue team couldn't manage to get even a single dish out of the kitchen, and Chef Ramsay was absolutely livid.
The lamb is cold. The lamb is cold. Get it back.
Back in the oven.
Get it back.
By the time they tried to recover, it was already too late. The red team had secured the win. Alright, now let's dive into Season 9, Episode 6, where things took an unexpected and wild turn, thanks to one particularly oblivious home cook.
Yes.
I haven't given up, and nor should you.
We're out of chicken.
In this episode, the top 20 contestants found themselves at the Anheuser-Busch Brewery in Van Nuys, California. The atmosphere was buzzing with excitement as the contenders were split into 2 teams. Chelsea took the reins for the blue team, while Bowen led the red team. The challenge was to prepare dishes for 101 brewery employees, but here's the twist.
Cooking with a secret ingredient. Beer.
As if cooking for such a large group wasn't enough pressure, the brewery employees themselves would be judging the dishes and deciding which team came out on top. The contestants had to choose between 2 mouth-watering options: a crispy fried chicken sandwich with beer-battered onion rings and corn salad, or beer-battered fish and chips paired with coleslaw and tartar sauce.
2 classic dishes that are elevated when made with delicious, fresh beer.
Chelsea, the leader of the blue team, had the first pick. Instead of choosing a dish, she chose to pick her team members. This decision, however, didn't exactly pan out as she might have hoped. In retrospect, opting for the simpler dish could have been the smarter choice. The red team, on the other hand, quickly seized the opportunity and decided to go with the fish and chips, making their decision before anyone could challenge it. With the clock ticking, both teams had 75 minutes to prep their dishes. Unfortunately, the blue team hit a rough patch almost immediately, despite having what seemed like a solid lineup of contestants. It became glaringly obvious that the team's leader was struggling to effectively manage and coordinate the group, leading to a series of disorganized and subpar results. Tough break for the blue team. Before long, the blue team found themselves spiraling downward, and let's just say their execution fell far short of impressive.
Did you hear me? Take all your corn at once.
No, I'm not doing all at once. I want to test.
Here's the thing. The members of the blue team were walking around with an I know best attitude, thinking they could handle everything solo. Unfortunately, that mindset led to a complete breakdown in teamwork and communication, which quickly became evident as the challenge progressed. The moment of truth arrived when the brewery employees were ready to taste the dishes. And guess what Chef Ramsay noticed? Chelsea, the blue team's leader, was just standing there with a look of utter detachment, as if she had nothing to do.
I don't want them standing there with nothing.
Okay.
So we go up there, we expedite. We need a system though, don't we?
Chef Ramsay was understandably taken aback by this scene. To make matters even worse, the blue team's kitchen came to a complete standstill because Chelsea was so focused on her own dish that she failed to guide her team and push them to get those orders out. Seriously, what's the point of being a team leader if you're not going to coordinate and lead your team effectively? Then Chef Ramsay's attention was drawn to something alarming: a piece of raw chicken.
Chicken's not going out, Chef. That's not an appropriate piece of chicken.
Chef Ramsay's reaction was one of sheer fury.
Look, what's that there?
Raw chicken.
That's not 30 seconds.
That's raw.
No, that's
Without hesitation, he ordered the entire batch of chicken to be thrown out.
No, chef.
No, get them in the trash. And trust me, if we could salvage it, I'd salvage it. But you know damn well we can't salvage that.
And as if things couldn't get any worse, the blue team ran out of chicken altogether, leaving Chef Ramsay almost speechless.
We're out of chicken.
What?
We're out of chicken.
Despite this major setback, the blue team scrambled and managed to feed all the diners by splitting their remaining chicken to stretch their orders. However, their efforts were not enough, and they ultimately lost the challenge to the red team, who had played it safe from the start. Tough break for the Blues, indeed. But wait till you see these scheming chefs that somehow made it to the show. In episode 6, the top 18 gathered for their first field challenge, where they would be divided into 2 teams to serve a hearty meal to over 100 US Coast Guard members.
So, anyone from season 7 or before, you'll become the blue team.
That means anyone from season 8 to 11 were the red team, which brought back some old memories. Or more accurately, rivalries.
Because the last time I was on a team with Emily,
The teams quickly chose their captains. Alejandro for the red and Christian for the blue. Each team had to create a menu featuring a protein, a starch, 2 vegetables, and a sauce. And as always, the losing team would face the elimination of 1 member. Now, it was up to Alejandro to inform the red team what their protein would be, and well, this is what they landed.
I want to go with the New York strip. We all agree?
Yeah. Wait. You don't want to do like salmon or something?
Meanwhile, Christian on the blue team aimed to bring a taste of New Orleans with some fish, but his approach wasn't too friendly. He quite rudely shut down any input from his teammates. If you ask me, his leadership style was as dictatorial as it comes, with poor communication dragging down team morale.
I'm telling you what we're going to do. We're doing a corn mock.
Over on the red team, they were going through their own set of issues. And Ramsay had to literally step in and advise Alejandro to take charge. You know, his one and only job?
So happy that you wanted to become the captain, but run your team.
Anyway, once everything was set, the judges decided to sample a dish from each team before the Coast Guard arrived. I guess they didn't want to take any chances. So the blue team presented Cajun cod with garlic mash, corn mac choux, grilled asparagus, and tomato gastrique. Well, it looked like they had everything sorted, but Chef Ramsay found the cod slightly undercooked and maybe even a bit too sweet.
You're going to give me a Cajun style cod. I need some fire from you.
Yes, chef.
I need some acidity. I need some power in there, because right now...
When it's Aaron's turn to judge, he suggested adding jalapenos for some heat.
Take a jalapeno, slice it in half, saute it in your mac choux, pull the honey back.
Well, overall, if you ask me, it wasn't great, but not bad feedback as far as feedback goes on the show. But let's see how long the red team would be able to impress, considering they plan to serve a New York strip with sauteed mushrooms, charred broccolini, roasted potatoes, and citrus chimichurri. Yeah, it's almost like they went out bold, trying to include every delectable dish possible into one meal. But guess what happened? Their overconfidence backfired. Their test steak was raw and barely had any seasoning on it.
Not seasoned, it doesn't jump out of the plate, it doesn't excite me. All I taste is decent meat.
Joe was so mad that he questioned Alejandro's ability to take feedback and rally his team.
Are you capable of taking all that feedback
100%.
we just gave you and
get it done right now.
redirecting everyone in this team?
Meanwhile, Christian and Derek had their own thing going, where they simply couldn't stop cashing with each other.
My potatoes, man.
that don't help. That don't help.
Seeing the unnecessary scuffle unfold, Ramsay couldn't help but let a pretty brutal remark slip.
Petulant teenager is just throwing a massive hissy fit.
You know how to cook fish, right? You say you know how to cook fish, right?
No, I know how to cook.
Well, he wasn't wrong, was he? I mean, the red team was a hot mess. Shanika even criticized Alejandro's leadership, pointing out that he should oversee each station instead of grilling all 101 steaks himself.
To leave this station, it's like a dog with a bone. Like, it's mine, it's mine.
She actually was onto something because those steaks were definitely gonna be his downfall. I mean, if the sample they presented to the judges was any indication, then I think you know which way this was going for them. Because when the red team prepared the first table of steaks, Chef Ramsay blasted them for being cold. So what was the solution, you ask? He ordered them to reheat everything. From scratch.
Getting a char and seasoning it right is not an easy thing. He's really trying, but I'm worried about him.
Frustrated, he directed the Coast Guard to the blue team instead. However, things weren't any better there either. Their mashed potatoes were barely even done boiling at that point.
Do you want to know why? Because our team captain threw hot potatoes in cold water.
Slowly, the Coast Guard received plates from both the blue and red teams. But they did actually get food, so that's something. However, the blue team soon hit a snag when Dara got chastised for poorly cutting the asparagus.
Start with that. Come back to me.
Someone's going home today.
Well, you see, it's all in the details, and it starts with how you chop the veggies. No matter how insignificant you think it is, prep time is crucial. And Dara learned this the hard way. Surprisingly though, the initial feedback from the diners was positive for both teams. And with that, both the teams were in a race. However, just when you thought they'd finally found their footing, something happened.
I'll send it back and ask for another one. After my money back, even.
Yeah, A raw steak was sent back, and in frustration, Chef Ramsay pulled a dramatic move by tossing it right into the ocean.
Come on, give me a plate.
Oh, those steaks were turning out to be a real pain.
Seagulls are preferring the steak than the guardsmen.
All right, here we are, sir.
But things took a turn for the worse when Chef Ramsay caught Alejandro doing this.
They're gonna get cooked.
Yeah, he casually picked up a tray of steaks that had fallen on the floor and put them back on the grill. Yikes. Talk about a complete disregard for basic hygiene. I mean, first of all, he wasn't doing great as a leader, and well, he had one thing to do. Work on the steaks, and sadly, he failed miserably at that too. But did he take responsibility for his clumsiness and the nasty move he pulled right after? Of course not. Alejandro came back strong with a defense that only he could make sense of. According to him, grilling would kill the bacteria.
Chef, I figured it was gonna kill the bacteria.
Look, say that again.
Right. I mean, thank you for that groundbreaking piece of information, brother. On a serious note, I died laughing when Chef Ramsay was so baffled by Alejandro's explanation that he just stopped and I couldn't think of what to say.
He just picked them up and put them on the grill because he just told me he thought it was going to kill the bacteria.
Yeah, this moment right here is one of those rare times when Chef Ramsay literally froze in time because, well, he had no idea how to react to something like that. The last I've seen him react like that was when one little miss explained to Chef Ramsay that cold water boils faster than hot water on Hell's Kitchen. Do you know who I am talking about? Don't forget to drop the names in the comments below, and let's see how many of you get it right. Either way, Chef Ramsay was totally taken aback. And there was only one plausible solution he could come up with to save the rest of the steaks, and perhaps the entire team. Chef Ramsay pulled the plug on Alejandro's role in the kitchen.
You better have a meeting right now and sort this out. I stuck them on the grill.
Now, this could be a great opportunity for the other team. The red team was struggling to put things together and didn't even have an efficient leader to man the ship, but, well, the blue team ended up making the same exact mistake only a few moments later. Yes, they sent out some raw cod.
You can't be totally raw like that.
Hey, that's not under, that's raw.
Anyway, eventually things settled down and both teams found their rhythm. Joe went around asking diners which dish they preferred, and it seemed pretty evenly matched. I couldn't tell if the steak or cod would win more votes. The judges, however, were less than impressed with both teams' performances.
I am lost for words.
Sorry, Chef.
Sorry, Chef.
Sorry, Chef.
Clear down.
Yes, Chef.
Yes, Chef.
When the votes were tallied, here's what the result looked like.
The blue team!
Yeah, the blue team came out on top with a landslide victory of 71-30, a total bloodbath. This meant someone from the red team would be going home. After some deliberation, the judges decided on that one name who had single-handedly drowned the entire team. Any guesses? Well, I think this was perhaps the easiest decision the judges have ever had to make, before or since.
Where we pick food up off the floor, re-grill it, and send it.
But surely Chef Ramsay has seen chefs try to serve food from the trash, from sample plates and whatnot. I mean, Hell's Kitchen fans will know what I mean. Anyway, with that unceremonious ejection, Alejandro became the third former semi-finalist in a row to be sent packing. But hey, I'm only getting started here.
What sauce? The salsa. Oh.
This is it. 3.
So, in episode 14 of season 8, Yachezia and Ebony found themselves teamed up for a high-stakes pressure test.
Lord help me, because I'ma need it.
It was evident that both contestants brought strong personalities to the table, which could either lead to an exceptional collaboration or whatever the exact opposite of that is. Well, the challenge at hand seemed deceptively simple. To create a Mexican platter by replicating all the items on display.
Of Mexican food.
The instructions were clear, and both contestants dove into the task feeling pretty good about what was in store for them. And as the challenge kicked off, it initially looked like they may have been right in that assumption with the way they were cheering each other on and working harmoniously as a team. I mean, what more can you ask for, right? However, it didn't take long for the situation to take a sharp turn for the worse.
Quick.
Now, tag team challenge, the most...
And soon enough, the cracks in their partnership started to show.
Ebony and Sheikah, they're two strong individuals. I don't know if they'll come together as a team.
That's enough.
It became evident, painfully evident even, that they just couldn't seem to make things work. As the clock ticked down and the stress started to hit the roof, the situation continued to deteriorate.
I'm just going down the checklist. Don't get frustrated, Ebony.
Right.
The pressure of the competition exacerbated their issues, making it harder for them to function as a cohesive unit. And when things couldn't fall in place, the tension reached its peak.
It gotta go on the trigger. You can't do that.
How long we want about like that, man?
With both contestants struggling to maintain their composure and work together effectively, the situation worsened as the pressure built on.
This is it. 3, 2, 1.
When it was finally time to present their platter, the outcome was a visual disaster.
Content. It's better than serving them dog crap.
Okay.
Chef Ramsay's reaction said it all. He wasn't one bit impressed.
What a mess. What happened, Yoshika?
Meanwhile, as the pair scrambled to explain themselves, they pointed fingers in every direction except towards themselves.
Absolutely not. I braised the lamb.
The moment of truth arrived as Chef Ramsay prepared for his first bite.
Because I have to taste this now.
The flavors clashed like opposing forces, and Chef Ramsay's reaction confirmed the worst. This wasn't good.
Thank you for my sick bag.
It was clear Chef Ramsay was unimpressed, but to this extent, his disappointment was palpable.
What's the positives?
I mean, it just wasn't just about the dish, it was more about their inability to work as a unit. Yachesia and Eboni's strong personalities, which could have been an asset, instead led to their undoing as they failed to collaborate effectively under pressure. Speaking of, here comes a contestant who left the judges boiling with anger thanks to, well, having no idea how to freaking cook. Well, it's gotta be Max Kramer.
I like the presentation.
So, Max found himself in the midst of a pressure test that would put his culinary skills to the ultimate challenge. And what was the task? To create a dessert dish that would impress the judges and secure him a spot in the competition. At just 18 years old, Max was the youngest contestant on the show, but he carried himself with an air of arrogance that didn't sit well with most of his fellow competitors.
I like the presentation, and I think the judges are gonna find it genius.
But today, I'm talking about the challenge when Max decided to showcase his skills with a dessert he called Torte du Crêpe. This ambitious creation consisted of an impressive 15 layers of delicate crepes and luscious cream.
15 crepes.
15 crepes.
Stacked together.
Max, brimming with confidence, presented his creation to the judges, convinced that it would earn him praise and perhaps even a coveted spot in the next round. But hey, he made it to this list, so I'm pretty sure you already know how that went. Reality struck hard when Chef Ramsay took a bite of Max's Torte du Crêpe. And believe me, his reaction was immediate and unfiltered.
What in the hell is that?
The disappointment was palpable as Max realized that his dessert had missed the mark by a long shot. Chef Ramsay's face twisted in dismay as he chewed on the dessert as the atmosphere in the room grew tense.
Damn.
But Chef Ramsay wasn't done yet. To prove his point, he even made Max taste his own creation.
Have to do this with me. You have to taste that.
The young contestant's face mirrored the shock and dismay of the judges as he sampled his own dish. The flavors and textures that he thought were harmonizing into a delightful treat turned out to be a chaotic mess.
It's like I've just gone to the doctors for a skin graft on my butt.
Yeah.
And stuck it in caramel.
Joe and Graham, who joined in the tasting, couldn't help but laugh at the unfortunate outcome. Max's dessert, which he had been so proud of, had turned out to be a complete disaster. The layers of crepes and cream, instead of blending into a harmonious dessert, clashed in an unappealing way.
Horrible, weird texture.
The texture was off. The flavors didn't blend with each other, and basically, this was the best example of a dessert gone wrong.
That's rancid.
All it takes is one small mistake to send you home, and Max learned that lesson the hard way. But this next challenge was different. It was a test of skill, precision, and perhaps a bit of humility. Maybe, hopefully, Suzette stepped into the spotlight with the confidence of a former professional athlete. Yes, Suzette wasn't just any athlete. She was a pretty well-renowned Brazilian soccer player.
Suzette, a former professional soccer player, is hoping to score the first apron.
Now, she was channeling that competitive spirit into a very different kind of game. She was here to cook her way into the first apron in the competition. As Suzette introduced herself, I gotta say, I was pretty intrigued.
Excuse me.
A professional soccer player turned aspiring chef? I mean, that's not something you see every day. But let's see what she's got for the judges. Suzette's choice for her dish was tilapia fish tacos with a vibrant mango salsa. She explained how much she loved eating healthy, a habit she picked up during her soccer days.
I really like to eat healthy.
The judges were listening, sure, but there was an undercurrent of curiosity about her past. And a hint of pride in her voice. Chef Ramsay mentioned casually, clearly hoping to bond over their shared athletic past. Suzette smiled, acknowledging the comment as the two briefly discussed their love for sports.
I was a forward. If you were a back, I'll take you on.
The banter was light and friendly, but the atmosphere was tense. The show, after all, was not forever, and Suzette knew she had to impress quickly. She moved with precision and speed, just like on the soccer field, but this time, her goal was to create the perfect dish. The minutes ticked by, and Suzette focused on her fish tacos, the sweet and spicy mango salsa adding a colorful touch to her plate.
We're doing tilapia fish tacos with a mango salsa.
As she worked, the judges watched, whispering amongst themselves. There was something magnetic about Suzette, a blend of athletic grace and culinary passion. Finally, it was time for the tasting. Suzette presented her dish with a hopeful smile, and the judges dug in. There was a moment of silence, the kind that always feels like an eternity to contestants. And then came the feedback.
I really want to learn. I'm really here to work hard and I'm motivated.
I don't think there's a lot of discussion here, guys.
The tension in Suzette's shoulders eased slightly, but she knew better than to relax completely as her flaws were being laid bare right in front of her eyes. And because of that, Suzette never managed to get 3 yeses from the judges. Of course, her heart sank a little, but she kept her composure. She thanked the judges for their feedback, even though it wasn't what she had hoped for.
One strong piece of advice. Your enthusiasm for flirting put into your cooking.
But speaking of auditions that didn't make the cut, here comes another chef who stirred up quite a discussion online. Hailing from Kiel, Mississippi, Albert had quite the resume when he first made it to the MasterChef auditions.
My name is Albert. I live in Kiel, Mississippi, and I am a heavy equipment operator.
This dude wasn't just any ordinary guy. He was a heavy equipment operator who also doubled as a commercial truck driver. And apparently, he had some serious culinary ambitions too. Albert here was planning to whip up a mean jambalaya, and guess what he decided to throw into the mix?
I will make a jambalaya with alligator and sausage.
Yup, alligator. Albert was pretty sure of his dish. He promised that even if you hadn't tasted gator meat before, it was going to be something special.
Thing that would taste like alligator would be turtle.
But why was this guy looking for a break on a cooking show? Well, if you haven't already guessed, it was for obvious reasons. Besides his passion for cooking, he had bills to pay.
The nation that I am the master chef, and it would financially stable me.
While this might sound like any other ordinary story, Albert's was a little different. Since Hurricane Katrina slammed through in 2005, Albert had been struggling to rebuild his life. Although he managed to put up a new house, it was still a work in progress. And with a dream to become the next MasterChef, he saw this as his ticket to financial stability. Now, coming back to the auditions. Albert sauntered into the MasterChef audition room with a swagger that screamed confidence.
Built a new house, not quite finished it. There is a lot at stake for me.
Sporting a camouflage outfit that blended perfectly with his redneck persona, my man here was ready to impress the judges with his culinary skills.
First name is?
Albert.
You're well camouflaged.
I'm the redneck concoctioner. I had to be camouflaged.
The judges wasted no time in getting to know Albert.
Are you a big fan of alligator?
If it's got 2 legs and 4 legs, I'm not scared of it. Well, I've cooked.
I mean, the dude's enthusiasm was infectious. But let's see if his culinary skills would match up to his personality. With just 5 minutes on the clock, Albert had to prove himself with his unique creation.
I have prepared a triple-tailed gator. It's alligator 3 ways.
Curious about Albert's adventurous palate, the judges inquired about his culinary preferences. But it wasn't just Albert's cooking that caught the judges' attention. They couldn't help but notice the tattoo peeking out from beneath his camouflage attire.
What's that on your chest there? What is that?
Oh.
It was an eagle with a holiday banner adorning his chest, while he hinted at another tattoo, a devil located in a rather unexpected place. Chef Ramsay couldn't resist the temptation, chuckling as Albert teased them with the offer to see it, but from a safe distance, of course.
I've got one on my butt. Would you like to see it?
Yes, please.
Anyway, let's keep the fun aside for a minute and get down to business. After a quick hand wash, well, of course, he had to, Albert proudly presented his creation, a sausage and alligator jambalaya, complete with a fried alligator medallion on the side, while the judges still couldn't snap out of his vibrant personality.
Alligator, a certain time of the season, we'll get it around home, you know?
Do you live in the bush?
Despite the challenges of cooking alligator meat, Albert had managed to deliver a dish that impressed even the toughest critics.
Incredibly lean, hardly any fats. Can deliver a really good flavor.
As Chef Ramsay took his first bites, he was taken aback by the unexpected burst of flavors. But there was absolutely no reaction from him. Next up, it was time for Graham to step up and try the gator dish. Once again, no reaction. Now, Joe was the only one left to try the dish, and you could sense the nervousness as he walked up to the front.
So this is my first experience eating a reptile.
Considering it was his first time trying gator, he wanted to prepare himself for what was to come next. And then, finally, he made the bold move. Without giving away a single hint, he walked right back to join the other 2 judges. Albert had no idea what to think of the judges' reaction, but that was until Chef Ramsay decided to share his feedback.
That dish resembles you 100%.
Oh no, that doesn't sound good. But before Chef Ramsay could elaborate, Joe cut in with his own feedback.
It's delicious.
Wait, what? Looks like Joe was blown away by the complexity and the depth of flavors Albert had managed to achieve. He simply couldn't stop raving about the dish.
The alligator is toothsome and flavorful, and it's really, really great.
What's more, Chef Ramsay decided to join in and praise Albert for his delectable dish.
You have surprised us.
I'm telling you, I am going to give it my shot, and I will do whatever it takes to become the next MasterChef.
With a resounding yes from all three judges, Albert's journey on MasterChef had begun. Determined to prove himself.
Graham, I'm a yes.
You heard my vote. You're a yes, man.
He pledged to do whatever it takes to become the next MasterChef. As he walked out of the audition room, Albert couldn't help but grin from ear to ear, knowing that his culinary adventure was just getting started.
See you later, alligator. Yeah?
You got it.
Okay.
Thank you, Chef.
Okay.
In the end, Albert's wild and unapologetic approach to cooking had won over the judges' hearts and taste buds.
I think it's the first time he's been down from the tree in a year.
With his redneck charm and a dash of humor, he had made a lasting impression that would carry him through the challenges that lay ahead. As for Albert, he'd gone straight from the bushes all the way up to Cloud 9.
He's a son of a bitch, but he is an honest son of a bitch because he shoots you like it is, and he's not gonna you.
Albert must have really busted his chops to get that apron. And hey, it's not easy in the kitchen, but it sounds like he put in the work and earned his stripes. So kudos to him. Now, if you think I missed any awful moment from the show, make sure to let me know in the comments down below. And if you thought the video was crazy, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn on my post notifications. And hey, don't forget to check out this next video right here. It's even crazier.